Zen Souls presents a lesson on visualization. When I first learned about meditation and self-work, I felt like I was an infant, just barely opening my eyes to this new world of possibilities and a new way of being. I have so much further to go in my journey. However, I feel like I'm easing into the level of a toddler at this point. And the reason why I say toddler is because sometimes I get so frustrated with myself. It feels like my brain is kind of throwing a temper tantrum as I am trying to progress into being a more mindful human being. And that's what made me come up with this visualization, because presently I'm working on trying to focus on potentially having a nice, healthy, loving, kind, 50-50 type relationship with a significant other. And I feel like no matter how much I focus on what I want presently in my life, my mind tends to go back to previous relationships with significant others where things did not go right. So, for example, I'll be thinking about what I do want out of a relationship, and then it's almost like my mind catches me and takes me back to this time in the past and shows me what I did not like, these negative issues that went on in previous relationships. So I don't know how many of you have gone through this. For me, it's baby steps in this mindful journey. But I noticed that the way that I was doing things wasn't working for me. And no matter what I did, my mind kept taking me back to this negative loop from the past. And so I've come up, for me personally, with a different way I've been recently visualizing, and it seems to be working out just a little bit better. So, in my past, when I was a young child and growing up and into adulthood, I've always been able to look at the positive in a situation. But recently, like I said, with these goals that I have set and what I'm aspiring for, things just haven't been going right in my visualizing. So I feel like I've been trying very hard to focus on what I want out of life, which is many things, but the thing that I'm focusing on for this visualization is a healthy, loving relationship. So there's really no reason for my mind to keep reliving these negative past moments. They're totally irrelevant at this point. Things that now with my self-work that I'm trying to do and work on and come into being a more enlightened human being, I know that this issue is holding me back. When I have these thoughts, I'll try to refocus the negative thoughts and they'll go away for a minute. And then I'll start doing some kind of monotonous task, like the dishes, for example. And then before I know it, I catch my mind reliving these negative past moments that I just want to let go of and move on from. My thoughts are going where I don't want them to be anymore. So right now, I want a happy, loving relationship and a partner that I can have this with. Find the right person for me. And while I'm doing this self-work, I'm just really trying to understand and know and find myself as well. So what I have decided to do for my visualization to help steer my mind out of this negative recording loop that wants to keep playing over and over and over in my mind, I feel like it's really blocking my energy and what my goals are for the future and distracting me from focusing on who I really am trying to become and what I really want out of my life. So instead of shifting my negative thoughts from the past to a positive present thought, or focus on something else like what I want out of a relationship, I've decided to humor my mind, I guess I should say. It's almost like maybe my mind feels like there's some kind of an unresolved issue, and that's why it keeps replaying scenarios from my past. So what's been kind of working for me very well, and I like it, and I would like to share that with you and hope that maybe it could help you as well. When I first came up with the idea to start doing this, I was a little bit concerned because growing up my entire life, when I would experience emotional trauma and negative events, how I always escaped that was with my imagination, which some may say is a great way to cope. It's a great skill to have. It helps you be resilient and go through things that other people might not be able to handle. However, for myself personally, I was able to get into such an imaginative state that I would almost question myself. I realized, especially looking back, that I may have not been facing my reality. I question myself and wonder if going away to my imagination was, in a sense, being somewhat delusional. However, I know that it is not delusion, and it's a way to cope. Imagination is not just pretending. I realized if I could use my imagination to visualize for the future and kind of pretend that my present negative situation was better, then I can imagine the positive past events just as easy as my mind could replay the negative ones over and over. It just takes a little bit more effort. I'm just approaching the subject a little differently than I had done it in the past. So clearly, when a negative thought starts repeating over and over about a past experience that's irrelevant at this point, however, it does have something to do with what I'm trying to focus on for my future. So, for example, say I'm doing the dishes or driving, and all of a sudden my mind decides that it's bored. So it starts thinking and starts replaying a negative experience I've gone through with the past significant other. Things I didn't like, interactions that I didn't appreciate, and situations I would have liked to go differently. So instead of trying to change the thought to something else, I will stop the thought in its tracks. I will allow myself to acknowledge that my mind is going back to these negative experiences from my past. because of the unresolved issue or whatever. And my mind is trying to figure it out. So it is kind of unresolved. I have yet to find the person that I can have that positive, healthy, loving relationship with. And I feel like part of that is because instead of resolving that issue in the past when it was happening, I went to my imagination zone and pretended that these negative experiences weren't occurring. And I ignored them. So the thing is now, presently, I've already dealt with these past issues, and it's really no longer necessary for my brain to keep replaying these negative events. I've learned from those past mistakes, and where it wasn't necessarily healthy for me to only acknowledge the good back then, I know now that I have learned from that negative experience and no longer need to focus on it. I see the future I want to create, and these negative loops are blocking my energy. I have had a hard time getting these thoughts focused in a different direction, so I decided this new thing that seems to be helping me, and hopefully it will work for you too. So it's been helping me feel unstuck, and it can work for anything too, not just relationships. You can use it to change negative thought cycles about jobs, finances, goals, etc. I'm just trying to pay it forward. So here's what I do. If I'm having a negative thought loop and I can't stop focusing on the negative relationship scenario, let's use an example of an argument with the past significant other. In my mind, I can see the event like it's presently happening, and it stirs up these bad, negative feelings and emotions. And I don't like these feelings because it's not what I'm doing anymore. Right now, as this thought is occurring, I'm washing my dishes, and I don't have that drama. And I'm doing all of this work and trying to live a more positive existence. So what I'll do is I'll acknowledge the thought. I'll realize, okay, my mind's going here. But then I stop the thought and say to myself, okay, yeah, that happened in the past. And then I will intentionally redirect my thought to a situation that occurred with that particular significant other that was positive. So it's like I'm telling my mind, and this also happened, and that was something that was actually good. One of the good things I would have focused on during that relationship, I imagine it as well as I do the negative. Then once I visualized a positive past experience, I will stop thinking about it for a moment and feel the emotional change in my body. I'll try to smile and feel the positivity. Then I will allow myself to stop the positive thought and remind my brain that now that is over as well. And right now, I'm doing the dishes. I am single and looking for love. Then I will again use my lovely imagination to envision how I want my future relationship to be. And the great part about it is that I'm feeling good about it because I had steered this negative thought that my mind was coming to a positive thought about the past, and in turn created positive feelings and emotions in my body presently. Now I'm using those feelings to think about things that I want in my future. Now, I feel like doing this is not ignoring negativity from the past. I'm actually acknowledging it for what it was. I'm just redirecting my brain to also see that there were also positive experiences too. So I feel like if my mind is going to be constantly replaying negative events that happened with previous partners, it's so counterproductive to what I am presently trying to focus on. Instead of focusing on feeling sorry for myself and things never worked out and constantly reliving bad events in my mind, I'm intentionally focusing on the good things that were actually good. So I'm forcing myself to remember the good, and therefore I'm upping my frequency to a more positive frequency, which allows me to feel better and allows me to focus more on my present, which is washing dishes in a peaceful home where there's no more relationship drama. Then in turn, I'm also going to be attracting more positive. If my mind is going to sit here and obsess about the past, which is completely unnecessary, but I find that I'm having difficulty not going there, and redirecting the thoughts to the present moment, then I will not allow my brain to focus on the negative. I will only allow it to focus on the positive, because ultimately the negatives and the positive at this point from my past are totally irrelevant. So I hope that someday, with more practice, I can learn to go completely and let it all go from that past. But I understand that this is a process, and this little exercise is going to help me, hopefully, from being a toddler of mindfulness to eventually a full-blown adult. These visualizations have been helping me a lot lately, and I kind of felt stuck in my progress. And these have been helping me to stay focused in a more positive light. And hopefully it can help you too. Thanks for listening. Namaste.